Welcome to our podcast. It's called Why Wait? Real Estate. Today we have the pleasure of having at the property show in Mississauga, Jon and Chelsea. They're both from Florida and they have an amazing real estate investment model that they would like to present. Jon is a broker and owner of JCP Realty, and Chelsea here is a sales associate with JCP as well. We also have Vatsal Shah, sales rep, and love to welcome you to Canada.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was quite a shock on the weather. We we came from 84 degrees yesterday to 43, I think it was. And then this morning, the windscreen, we actually were taking ice off the window. So a little bit different than Orlando.
Just a teeny little bit, right? Yeah. Yes. No, we have actually been blessed with the weather, believe it or not. Like this time of the year, it's actually snowing and it's crazy.
Really?
So we are ready. We're not complaining at all.
Well, that explains why so many people come to Orlando and get away from the cold and the snow.
True.
Absolutely. Let's talk about JCP. When did it all start? How did it start?
Penny Realty, we started 15 years ago. We're based out of Kissimmee. So we're right in the heart of Florida. Okay. We are a very niche brokerage where we primarily work with investors and second homeowners who are looking to buy property close to Disney, but also be able to rent it out if they're not using it. There's a couple different investment models where people buy property, lock the door and leave them, and they just rent them out when they use it when they want. We're looking at it more so from an investor's perspective to say, I don't want to have an asset just sitting there where it's costing me money each month where I've got to pay the bills. I'd rather let a property management company come in and care for it and rent it out, and then I can dictate when I want to come and use it. So what happens is we have investors who will come in, they sit and work with Chelsea or any of our agents, and they take them and show them different type of properties. And what makes us different is our location.
Okay. What about the location? What is so different?
Central Florida is the number one destination for vacationers in the whole world. So if I'm looking at a place where Las Vegas or New York City or Dubai or anywhere I could go around the world, those are good places where I might visit once, twice, 3 times. But Orlando is a destination that people keep coming back to. And what we look at is, I've lived in Orlando since 1972, so I've been there a long time. I've seen it come from orange trees and cow pastures to where it is right now. But what's happened is people are concerned, well, there's storms like the last storm that just came through, Irma or whatever. And, I'm concerned about the weather, and, I see all of the news and the media, what they're doing. And believe it or not, where we are located in the central part of Florida, when the winds and the rains come up from the tropical storms across the water, they have to come 80 miles inland before they hit Orlando.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they lose a lot of steam. So we might get a good afternoon wind and rain, but we were downtown the CN Tower yesterday.
Yeah. Yes.
And there was a good 40, 45 mile an hour wind yesterday, and that's some of our good storms are 45, 50 mile an hour.
Wow.
So you're getting winds and rains off of a lake just like we get through the storms, but by the time it comes into Orlando. Now, if you're on the coast, if you're in Daytona or down in Miami or down in any of the coastal areas, you get the direct brunt of it because it's coming right off the water.
So when we look into, when we watch CNN and we're looking at news media and they say Florida underwater, it's not
where we are. Well, and it isn't. And we'll take like Key West, the last time they came through. Key West is 3 feet above sea level, and there's no protection. It literally is a barrier island that sits out in the water.
Right.
So when the storms come through, guess what? It's a disaster. We are different.
That's amazing. So we talked about location. Let's talk about dollar values. How does that compare to Toronto?
I've shopped some of your properties up here, and I've looked in places like Markham and different places. And I'll give an example. We have one of our best performing properties. It sounds strange, but just listen. It's a 14 bed, 11 bath.
14 bed?
14 bed, 11 bath.
Wow.
Now that's a villa.
That's a hotel. That's a hotel. That's almost like a hotel.
Yeah, only Drake can afford that.
But what we do is we look at it from different perspectives because we look at how do people travel nowadays. So when we look at value, we say, well, it's a house I'd never live in, 14 beds, I don't need it. Mm-hmm. But from an investor's point of view, it actually works good because it's called heads in beds. How many heads can I get in beds? Mm-hmm. So if I take that property, I can be all in with the house and the pool and the spa and the beautiful view off the water and everything in a gated resort community for less than $600,000.
600,000.
600,000. And it's a 6,249 square foot house. So if I take that and I try to buy that with a private pool,
oh my!
and if I try to buy that,
Did you sell a 470 square foot condo last week or for $600,000?
yes.
Wow,
That's Toronto.
half head and half bed, my friend.
Yes. Well, and we've noticed that's one thing we do notice up here is the GT area, right in the especially downtown. It is heavily modernized, everything going vertical. You've got a lot of construction going up where we have space. We like sprawling a little bit. So we want to put our house on a half acre, quarter acre, whatever. We want to be in a gated resort community with a clubhouse and a lazy river and a restaurant and bar. We want all of the creature comforts that go with it. We don't want to be packed in. So we can have 2 or 3 families or maybe grandparents and parents, kids, grandkids all staying in one house under one roof.
Wow.
And everybody, a big family, and they all get to stay together, and it's a very reasonable cost. So from where the market is in value, that house here in Toronto would probably $2.5 to $3 million for that type of a house.
At least,
So-
I would say.
So I'm going to play, I am an investor here. I am putting the money down. Tell me how much on a $600,000 property that you're talking about, how much money am I putting down? What are the returns I'm looking at? And who is managing this property?
That's the good thing is when you work with us, we're kind of a one-stop shop. We've got Chelsea who will actually work with the individual investor and find the right property for them.
That's great.
But then what we've done is we've gone and taken and added in the other aspects of it, which is the property management, the furniture. You have to realize that you can't just go buy furniture and put in the house. You actually have to theme the bedrooms. You have to put in Mickey Mouse themes or maybe Transformers for the little boys or SpongeBob or stuff like that. You've got to put things in that make the moms go, wow, that's a great house. I know little Jimmy or little Sally would love to have a bedroom like that when they come down and stay. Then they go to even to the point of putting home theaters in. So they'll put anywhere from 8, 10, 12 seat theaters with big screen TVs or big projectors on the wall, games rooms, because not everybody goes to the theme parks every day.
True.
You need to take a couple days off whenever in between. So instead of going and having to pay money to go do something besides Disney, they can stay right there at the house and have all the amenities. So how we kind of work together is Chelsea will find the best property for the individual. Then we'll work with the interior decorator and the furniture company. We'll furnish it. Then we work with the management. Management's a little different because not every manager is the best fit for each individual.
Agreed.
So what we try to do
I've gone through a few myself.
it happens, and we keep a log, and there are people that they're no longer recommended because we give everybody a chance, because everybody can make a mistake, everybody can have a hiccup. But if you see this continual and we give them chances to come back and say, can you please correct this? Can you please talk with this owner and try to sort it out? If it's habitual and it keeps coming, they're off the list. So what we try to do is we give 2 or 3 different management companies to an investor, say, please sit and interview them. Who do you fit best with? All 3 of them have been vetted by us. We know that they do what they say they're going to do. Their returns are good. The numbers, there's no full transparency. That's where we're really adamant about full transparency. So you see what you're doing, what's going on behind the books. You get to pick out who you work with. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to give you recommendations of who we think might be the best fit for that house and that community. Because if you think about it, if your management company is all the way over here and the house is over here, do you think that house is going to get the most attention? Maybe not. So you might want a management company that's a little closer. We call it top of mind awareness. They're in that community every day. They have other homes.
Some of them live in the community.
Some of them actually live. Yes.
That's really good.
We found that makes it better because they have a vested interest in it. Of course. They live there. They want to make sure that those homes do very well.
So how about the mortgage kind of?
That's a really good question. And what we do is we work with a few different lenders. One is RBC. RBC has a Canadian, but they also have a U.S. branch. And we work with the RBC. We work with individual mortgage brokers who do what's called private mortgages, where they hold the note themselves. They're insurance companies who have a lot of money to loan, but they're very easy to work with. I don't know if you do mortgages up here called no document mortgages.
We don't do that.
No.
We do
No document.
No
more
docs.
than required documents.
So you have to get a leg and an arm
Yeah.
on your
Give
first
your
one?
blood.
Yes.
Give blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
We work with lenders who will loan up to 10 mortgages for an investor. So you
Really?
can have 10, you can own 10 different properties,
Mhm.
all investment, not primary residence, but investment homes. They require 25% down instead of the typical 30 or 35.
Okay.
They are very limited, doc. They don't ask for where you work. They don't ask for any employment. They don't ask for anything except, and the money that is for down payment can actually be borrowed or gifted money. It doesn't have to be your own money.
I know.
Yes,
right?
mind blown.
Really?
Yes.
How about being a foreigner, kind of like?
Actually, they work the same. The only difference that we have in the U.S. and the States is if it's a primary residence, we can get a lower interest rate at a lower down payment because we live in the house.
Mm.
But if
Right.
I'm buying it as an investment, I put the same down payment that
Uh-huh.
you would, 25%.
Okay.
But I also have the same restrictions that you do because it's not a primary residence, it's an investment property. So there's no difference in restrictions between an American and when, especially if we're dealing with RBC, it makes it good because they do work with their sister company up here, RBC of
Wow.
Canada. But we also deal with TD, Toronto Dominion.
Okay.
We have quite a few avenues for mortgages. But that's one of the things that we try to take the stress out of buying a property because it's not just about the mortgage. It's not just about the house. It's about management. It's about the furniture package. It's about everything after that part of it that makes it successful.
That's great. Chelsea, what has been your experience with JCP? How long have you been with the company?
You're kind of new.
Yes. I was with a different company and made the switch because they specialized in something I was already doing, which was working with international buyers for investments
Mhm.
and
Right.
second homes. I love it. It's more of a boutique brokerage, very hands-on. John picks up the phone anytime I have a question.
That's great.
He's
Yes.
not an imaginary person in the space.
That can happen.
Right,
Yes.
right. And he's very knowledgeable when it comes to the investments in international people.
So an international person or foreigner
Mhm.
contacts you, makes the first to contact, shows the interest. How do you take that from being a lead to a full close? So drive us through that cycle.
Okay. Well, I would want to know their criteria.
Mhm.
But sometimes their criteria can change as we talk and find out how much they're looking on returns.
Yeah.
And then I would narrow it down from there on which community sounds like the best fit for them.
Okay.
And then some people I never actually meet in person. We do
do a lot.
everything through FaceTiming at the property, just making a video sometimes and sending it to them, and everything gets electronically signed. They never even have seen the property until
Wow.
after they've closed and the keys are in a property manager's hand.
But it is
Is
different.
that right?
It is different
Mhm.
because we do find that there is true investors, which are strictly buying with the mind.
Right.
It's strictly about the Excel spreadsheet.
Oh,
What are
true.
the numbers worth?
Yep.
Yeah.
But then there are ones that we call them a heart and a head purchase. It's a combination
Mhm.
where you've got to find the house that the
Suits
wife
you.
just falls in love with. The pool area is great. It's not overlooked in the back. It's got a nice south-facing pool, so I got sun on it all day long.
Right.
That's a combination. And then you get the other ones who are all the way at the other end of the rainbow that is strictly about heart. They don't care anything about rentals. They don't care about if it makes money. It's a house that I love. I've fallen in love with. I want to come stay there. I
Right.
want to come live there 5-6 months out of the year when it's snowing up here. I want to be down there. So we
8-9 months.
I know, but we're trying to think better. It's only maybe 5 or 6. But what we want to do is we want to be able to accommodate each of those. So when we say we've got 30 agents in the office, not every one of them are like Chelsea. Some of them are work with our primary residences where they only,
Okay.
they're our U.S. citizens. They want to live
Right.
there.
Mhm.
So we have agents that have to work on that section of the real estate section. And then Chelsea works a lot with investors.
That's
How about the appreciation and value of the property?
It's
What
good.
is-
We did have a crash. Everybody knows in the U.S.
Okay.
we did have a crash.
In 2008, 2009.
2008 and 9.
Yeah.
But we've actually come back and we were actually just looking at the inventory numbers for homes available. We're back to 2.8 months of inventory. We're back to 2004 and 5,
Very
which
healthy.
is very healthy. It's
Yeah.
definitely a very strong bullish market. We look at from an investor, because every investor knows appreciation is a just a number. It's just,
It's a key to an investor's.
it is. But you can't spend that. You can't pay bills with appreciation.
Yeah.
But we look at appreciation as an exit strategy. You want to be placed in the best community that is going to grow appreciation. So when you go to leave and exit and sell that property, you've made money. So from an investor's perspective, we try to stay in communities there in phase 1 or phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
If it's already gone into phase 3 or 4, now some of these are 1,000 home communities. So 1,000 homes, you've got 4, 5, 6 phases. So there's a lot of depth that you can go into it. But to talk about appreciation, we had a young lady who bought a house off plan. Took about 11 months to build because it was way early in the plan when she bought it. But she sold it at closing because of some health issues and all. But she made $101,000 net just from when she went to contract to when she closed. Within 35 days afterwards, we sold it for her. So she made $101,000 in less than a year. But if you look at our whole region, appreciation-wise, there's about 10 to 11% appreciation per year. Some a little higher, some a little lower, but that's about average.
Now, I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, something along the lines that if you sell a property in the United States and you reinvest the money into a property itself, you're not taxed?
1031.
1031, exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those that we have a program called 1031. It's called the Starker Exchange. And what happens, though, is you actually have to set it up before you go to sell it. So you work with a qualified intermediary.
Okay.
We can arrange it for you. And they actually we sell the property. They take possession of the asset, of the cash.
Okay.
If you take possession and then give it to them, it voids it out. So when it gets sold, the money goes into this 1031 exchange. The 1031 exchange buys you a replacement property on your behalf, and it bypasses the tax. It doesn't mean that you'll never pay tax. It's a tax-deferred exchange is what it's called. So whenever you keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that, but at the end, when you finally pull out your last and you don't buy again, you will have to pay tax on it.
But no one never buys. I mean, you always, if you are a real estate person,
exactly.
You're always in it.
You're always going to buy. And then what I've seen some people do is they'll take it and they'll finally sell it out, and then they'll put the last one in a trust, and it just sits there. But to answer your question, yes, there is a way to do it. It's called a Starker or a 1031 exchange.
That's very interesting. We don't have anything like that here.
We do have a couple good benefits down there, besides the weather and the golf.
No, we've got some benefits. It's called $1,200 a square foot condo.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, well, that big house we were talking about, that 14-bed, to give you an idea, when you look at value per square foot, that house puts out at dollar per square foot of $96 a square foot. Brand new construction, concrete block, $96 a square foot.
$960? No,
not $960, $96. Tile roof, gated community with a pool. That's for $96 a square foot.
With the resort amenities in the neighborhood too.
Yeah,
that is beautiful. No, guys, thank you very much for being on the show. Really appreciate coming on such short notice. Thank you for coming all the way, making the trip. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Easy. We can go to our website. We've got all of our information on there. It's jcpennyrealty.com. But if you have any questions, give us a call. Give you guys a call. You'll get in touch with us. But hope to be back up here again soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And there's only one thing left to say. Why wait? Real estate.
Why wait? Real estate. That's
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.